Greetings, members, one and all of the Salivation Nation. The highest and lowest risk precious metals. Let's explore. Indeed. You know, most of you can probably take a guess as to which one is the highest and which one is the lowest risk. And obviously the other two metals are somewhere in between there. But this is sort of a nuanced discussion. In some circles, there may not be a right answer. But I think most of us can probably come to some sort of criteria as to how we measure risk in terms of holding these metals. Now, risk is kind of measured in different ways. One is, the ability to liquidate your metals. That's probably the most keen way to measure risk. You want to be holding something that nobody wants, no matter what the price of it may be. That's a problem with ultra rarities of any sort, including high premium coins, for instance, that there may be a very narrow market. Your average silver stacker may not be interested in a 1995 proof W minted silver eagle, the one that's worth a whole lot of money. But nonetheless, there are other kinds of coins and numismatics that provide a different market, and that risk can be assessed and transferred into your group that you need to sell. And of course, we're talking about the physical markets. These four precious metals that you see here are silver, gold, platinum, and palladium. And all of them, well, except for I think palladium, but all of them trade in electronic form. And I'm sure probably there are some palladium futures and ETFs out there. I'm just not aware of them, but I know that they exist for gold, silver, and platinum. And so when you trade in those markets, well, they're all highly liquid. So that kind of removes that aspect. You can sell them, but you're at the mercy of spot price pretty much 100%. And of course, the trading fees that are incurred whenever you buy and sell those metals. But so you have to kind of ignore or look past that kind of market and understand the risk of trading in those markets is that they are essentially representations of derivatives. And so that level of risk exists co-equally with all of these metals. And now there are some representations where you can make a purchase and they will be backed by the physical, but most people really don't care to cash out and take delivery. It's a representation of the metal. It's a matter of just trading it for some other stock or what have you. So when we remove that element of it, we are left with measuring the risk of these metals in the physical form. And the physical forms that you see here happen to be proof coins, just to kind of to show the brilliance of the metals and the difference with how they appear compared to their counterparts, all 1 ounce size here, by the way, as well. And so, but these metals, they have their own pluses and minuses with holding them. Some of them have done very, very well. They've reached record highs, and within the last 2 years, two metals especially have reached record highs in the last 2 years. But they are very different in terms of their risk assessment in holding these metals. And that is something that is quite intriguing to think about. How metals can reach an all-time high being traded, but yet you have a hard time finding a buyer for one, even though its precious metal value is up extremely high. And I'm going to tell you that metal is palladium. Palladium got to over $3,000 an ounce, but it is very difficult to liquidate. And and so that is an issue, and the premiums are very high if you want to purchase the metal. And the spread, even in the spot price, is very wide between for palladium. And that is something that a lot of people don't think about, is the spread between the ask and bid price, which is something that is common when you look at the spot price of any of the metals, they all have a spread, what's known as a spread, which is a difference between the ask price and the bid price. And then you have premiums that are tied to them. And those premiums, you can gain or lose on those premiums. It just depends on the metal. And for instance, for palladium, it's well over $100 difference spread between the ask and the bid price, which means that if you go to sell that palladium eagle in this case, you may get a certain amount of dollar based off of bid price. So you may get maybe $50 above spot bid as opposed to $50 above spot ask. Or if somebody's really scared to hold it, they may give you a percentage, a 3 or 4% under spot bid, which means that you're being paid based off of the premium or based off the spot price, but under that bid price. For gold, it is actually exactly $1, although that can vary depending on how volatile the markets are. But right now, it's $1 spread between bid and ask. And I think that is a measure of risk. What the risk is tied to that in terms of liquidity. Obviously, gold is much more liquid than palladium. Silver is only a dime's worth of difference between the ask and bid price. It's very liquid as well. But there's a nuance with silver, and that is the premiums. The premiums that you are charged when you buy it, because silver is in great demand right now, and there's a shortage of silver product. And in fact, there's a shortage of silver product to make other silver product, in other words, finished coins or rounds. And you get a big bunch of it out there into the marketplace, and then it gets dissipated, sold very quickly, and then you have a bottleneck in getting a new product out there to serve that need. Platinum sort of hovers in between all of those in terms of the premiums and, of course, the spread between bid and ask. In fact, it's a $10 worth of difference between bid price and ask price. And so that is kind of it gives you an idea of the spread there, which means that it is more liquid than palladium, but less liquid than gold or silver. And, a lot of it is due because platinum and palladium are, they're kind of measured in a different way than silver and gold are. Platinum and palladium are more industrial metals, where silver and gold are more monetary metals. Yea, though silver has certainly an industrial side. In fact, its industrial side is greater than its monetary side, or as a store of value, or as a hedge, like what gold is considered. And gold does have somewhat of an industrial side as well too. It is utilized in industry and science and technology, in the biomedical field, just like silver, but not nearly as diverse and not nearly as much. Silver is used and it is utilized and it is disposed of mostly, and silver and gold is treasured and held close. And so for that gives us some criteria to think about when we measure the idea and figure out and weigh the risk factor in holding these metals. The other and the biggest factor that I think people can think of is the volatility in the spot price. The volatility in the spot price is very profound as to what is considered more stable and not. Now, you'll notice in this video, I do not have an example of rhodium. I left rhodium out on purpose because rhodium, though tracked by I've only seen it one place, and that is Kitco. It's mostly not traded on a regular basis. It's so rare and it's so volatile, and the spread is so wide, it's a no-brainer that rhodium would certainly top that list of being the highest risk precious metal. Although its price has stayed fairly steady up high, it could tank at any moment. But for an example, though, as I record this video, the last movement we saw in rhodium was down over 2.5%, a $450 drop. And we have seen it in times drop more than the price of gold did in a single day. In other words, it dropped almost $2,000 in one day. So we kind of hold that separate because there's not many options, especially to hold the physical version of Rhodium. There's only three versions that I've seen out there in bullion form. One is a coin, and there's two different bar manufacturers, and I've only seen, I've not been able to see the Pamp Suisse Rhodium bar. I've not seen it in quite some time available for sale anywhere. So basically it's left to palladium, silver, gold, and platinum. And then we look at the fluctuation of the spot price, and we can see that clearly silver moves fairly wildly because it is both an industrial metal and it's a hedge. So there's a lot of push and pull on silver. And also there's a lot of people that feel that silver itself is singled out in terms of price manipulation and especially suppression. And because of the movement in price and the wide ratio between gold and silver. In other words, the number of ounces of silver needed to buy an ounce of gold used to be regularly around 60, between 60 and 65, and just below 60. Now it's up in the high 70s, and it did get up to about 120 in the summer of 2020, or early spring and into the summer. But very interesting indeed to see. So silver is fluctuates in price, given account of everything that's going on. In fact, as I record this video, it's dropped, its loss is more than double that of gold's. And so that means that gold typically tends to be a little more stable than silver. But is it more stable than platinum and palladium? Well, yes. In fact, as I record this video, actually platinum dropped even more than palladium did. But overall, palladium, though, is at a record, is near its record high, and it has pretty drastic moves in price as well. And so therefore, because of the liquidity issues with palladium and the fluctuation in spot price, and that it is at a near record high, likely some people feel it won't go much higher than it is now, and it's very hard to liquidate. So that leaves to for palladium being the highest risk precious metal. That's right. This is the highest risk precious metal here, palladium. And it's just very hard to get rid of. It's not as well recognized. We do see multiple manufacturers of bullion form, including the United States Mint. Canada's been producing palladium maples for a while, but the United States Mint got into the palladium game in 2017. Still very difficult to liquidate. Wide gap between the spot and bid and the spot ask. So therefore, palladium is the highest risk precious metal. And one might think that silver might be pretty darn risky, and I think it is fairly risky, but it is not as risky as palladium, and is not as risky as platinum, because platinum, like palladium, is very difficult to liquidate, although not as difficult as palladium. And so when you have a platinum eagle, and the United States Mint has been producing platinum eagles since 1997, and so did the Royal Canadian Mint, and most major mints around the world are producing platinum, and given its price, it has a lot of room to move in the upwards direction, but volatility and risk still weigh in because of liquidity. And so therefore, because of the drastic moves in spot price and liquidity issues, platinum is almost as difficult to liquidate and almost as high of a risk as palladium, but there's more room for it to pay off if you buy platinum now. At least that's how I feel. Silver is risky, but it is very liquid, very easy to sell your silver. And obviously there are other risks that are tied to it are the high premiums. And a lot of those premiums you won't get back if you go to sell it, at least not as much as you would expect, even if they pay you above spot price. The difference between the premiums you pay and the premiums you get back is a wide enough gap that it makes it somewhat risky, but at the same time, it's not as risky as platinum or palladium because it is highly liquid and it has potential and room to move up. And of course, the answer we've all been waiting for about the lowest risk precious metal is gold. Indeed, gold has been treasured and valued for thousands of years. It typically does not make as drastic of moves in spot price, although we have seen the spot price move up fairly dramatically for gold over the last few years. It has reached record highs twice in the last couple of years, and many people feel it can move upwards, but more likely it's not going to be in huge drastic moves compared to the other metals. And so gold is a metal to be reckoned with, and the premiums are much lower than these other metals are in comparison. Much lower premiums based off of the amount of money you spend. So that leaves gold being the lowest premium or the lowest risk, and palladium being the highest risk. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.